say that a lot to people who struggle with insomnia, which is really more about a fear of not sleeping than it is truly not sleeping, which doesn't really exist in nature. That there was something very curative about medical school and residency and internships and all that stuff, which was you would just get absolutely annihilated from a sleep perspective and then take somebody's spleen out. Do you know what I mean? Like, so now, were you in the best shape to do that? Probably not, but you did it. Like, you got through it.
Yeah.
So there is a lesson there that, yeah, I mean, it wasn't great and it was trying at times, but you can still get things done, and so I think that there's a lesson there that, people say, well, I have a difficult night sleeping. I only get 3 hours of sleep sometime, which is probably not true. But let's say it is. You got 3 hours of sleep. Okay, so you got 3 hours of sleep. You can still get through the next day, And so it teaches you probably a strange optimism or confidence that can be helpful, which is, well, I'm going to go to bed at night. I'm going to sleep great or I'm going to sleep terribly, but I'll make it through Wednesday. And then probably Wednesday will be better. So, so it kind of versus, that sort of dwelling on, I hope it doesn't take me 2 hours to fall asleep tonight. Like, there were times in my career, like, if you would guarantee me a 2-hour stint of sleep in my call room, I would have paid anything for it.
Yeah.
Like, just give me 2 hours. I can conquer the world with 2 hours of sleep here. So I do think that it does teach a little bit about sleep in a weird way, but you probably do it a little bit more humanely and different.
Maybe so. Is being young a big part of that? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. If you or I went back and try and do that now, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it works, does it? I say this a lot to the athletes that I work with, that it's a difficult conversation. If I'm sitting in a room with you, you're not looking at me thinking, oh, elite professional athlete. You probably, he looks like he runs and maybe lifts a little bit of weights, but there's nothing elite about me from an athletic perspective. So sitting and talking to an elite athlete and saying to them, let's optimize sleep, let's value sleep and prioritize it, et cetera, et cetera. There are athletes that doubt it. Like, why? I'm an elite athlete. I'm one of the best NBA players in the world. And to your point, my response is, yeah, you are, but you're 20.
Yeah.
My job is to keep you healthy and have you create the longest career that we can extract from your abilities. And by proxy, the longest amount that you're going to get paid. Because as soon as you get injured,
now they're listening.
Like, the gravy train is ended.
Yes, yeah.
So it's exactly what you're saying. I often say, look, the reason why you can stay up late playing video games and run around chasing women and going out is because you're 20 and your body forgives you a lot more. But sleep at any age, better sleep at any age is going to improve performance. It's just sometimes hard when you're at the top of the class to convince, well, how can I be better than the best, is essentially. Well, you can be. I mean, and then to me, it's more of an argument of longevity, because when 20 turns to 25 and 25 to 31, this forgiveness your body has theoretically of a bad night's sleep here and there is going to disappear rapidly.
I imagine also your recovery ability change.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if you're an athlete, a really important thing is you can recover from injury or overtraining, and surely lack of sleep is going to have a big impact on that.
Absolutely. It's that, to me, is what's essentially what sleep is. Yes, it'll improve your performance and your hand-eye coordination, speed and decision making, etc. But really, what sleep is, if you're trying to quantify it in terms of an elite athlete, it's the ability to perform at that high level and turn around and do it tomorrow night or the next night and travel across the country and do it again and be consistent with it, and have your sprint times and swim times and running times be pretty much the same, continue to improve, avoid illness and injury, recover from them quicker if you get them. Your 100% right. So I think that, it's a lot easier argument to make now than it was 15 years ago. I think most elite athletes understand that. And we all have experiences of a bad night of sleep or noisy hotel room, a delayed flight, and then what we feel like the next day. And, I always think about that, particularly with like an Olympic athlete. It all boils down to this pole vault or this balance beam, or this swim.
This
You've been
moment.
training your entire life, and this competition comes around every 4 years. So how are you going to feel Tuesday morning on the 11th? It's just, I find that fascinating. Like, because I work out most days. And this past Sunday, I felt awful. I mean, I worked out, but it just was not there. And I always, whenever I have those days, A, I find it fun to try to work through it, see what happens. But B, I don't think I have the mental fortitude to show up to that once every 4-year event and just happen to feel like that and get through it.
Wow.
Like that would mentally destroy me. I'd be like, okay, I feel crappy, so I'm not going to do well, and blah, 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 and here we go. So I think sleep consistency can really push the odds in your favor that random Tuesday when you're trying to win this competition you've been training for 4 years, you're as good as you can be.
You've built up the credit. You have something in the bank. It seems to me that, and maybe it's just me, I'm going to see over the past 5 years or so, there's lots of experts talking about sleep, writing about sleep, yourself, Matthew Walker, other people. You go to lots of different podcasts, you hear people talking about sleep. Again, maybe it's just maybe it's the algorithm or the environment I'm in. I'm wondering, have we in recent years have we discovered more about the importance of sleep in recent years? When I was a young man, it was like, I sleep and I'm dead type of thing, But
Yeah,
have we
no,
discovered that
we
that's not the case?
absolutely have.
Hmm.
I think we're sort of in yes, I think the answer to your question is 100%. We have absolutely discovered things about sleep and continue to do it. It's a very hot topic. There's a lot of personal interest in sleep. I can see it even in the athletes that I work with, how I was received, 20 years ago and how I'm received now, meaning that I've got young athletes who, when I sit down with them, they're bringing sleep data from their own trackers and they're hearing things on podcasts and ask very high level questions. So the buy-in has really changed. And I think where we are now, I always think of research. I think all research is good in one way or the other, but I always think of research in science on a spectrum, meaning I'm certain that plants use chlorophyll to transfer sunlight and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen. I think if there's somebody on a podcast saying that that's not true, or we've been fooled by big chlorophyll over the past 10 years, they're crazy.
Yeah.
The earth is round. Sorry if you think it's flat, it's round.
Yeah.
So I think of that on the far left of the spectrum, like the red area of the spectrum. Then you've got your red, orange, yellow, green, blue. So, a study of 10 people taking creatine that did this to their deep sleep. It's interesting and we should talk. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not their fault. They only had 10 people in the study and 3 dropped out or whatever. But I think that where we are right now is we are combining a high level of interest in sleep, a lot of communication. To your point, if I talk about sleep, the algorithm does something with that. It populates. I had a magazine editor one time tell me, if we put something about sleep on our magazine cover, we sell more magazines. 10 tips for your sleep, or, whatever. Unlock your sleep potential, biohack your abs, your sex, and your sleep. Boom, big selling magazine right there. So I think where we are right now is we may have a little bit of difficulty differentiating the chlorophyll science from the N of 7 science in a magazine that wasn't peer reviewed. We can talk about it. We just have to be very careful I like science that has a lot of humility to it. And I think that sometimes humility doesn't translate well in a social media environment. You got to know it.
Yeah.
It is hot.
Yeah.
Stop avoiding fat. You should be only eating fat in your diet like the cavemen did.
There's no
And this is how you
nuance.
live to be 300. Like that kind of tone is a lot better than, hey, this is an interesting study. I don't know what to make of it,
Mm.
but we just need more research to figure out what, like, that's getting 100 likes or 100 views. They don't care about that. So, but I think that's an interesting environment. I'll take interest and maybe some skewing of data over disinterest because I see it in my own children. Like they care about their sleep now. And it's not because their dad cares, it's because, the conversation is sort of in their ear about sleep. And that's awesome.
One of the things that maybe it's confused me a little bit from listening to you on other podcasts and YouTube, etc., is that there seems to be a great. I suppose, like anyone, I'm trying to think, what's optimal sleep for me, and when I listen to you, it seems to be like there's no specific. You're not going to say, "Oh, Paul, it's easy. It's 8 hours." It's not from your point of view. It's not as simple as that. It seems to be a very very personalized thing. So if it's very personalized, how do I figure it? Like if you said it was 8 hours, that's very simple. I just go to sleep for 8 hours, but it's not quite that simple.
No, I mean, I always think about it like nutrition. You know, I've never seen an article about nutrition that says this is what you should be eating to be optimally healthy. There's guidelines, minimize this and try to get more fiber. And I'm not a nutritionist. So, but nobody says 2,350 calories for you, guy. Because you forget, there's a lot of questions to be asked. What do you do? I'm a distance runner. I'm a 20-year-old executive who, as soon as work ends, I start running and run about 10 to 15 miles a day versus same guy goes home and sits down and watches, TV. They're going to need different things. And so sleep's like that. So there's nothing wrong with an article or Matt talking about 8 hours in his book. It's 7 hours is the amount of sleep that's most tied to optimized health in an adult. 8 came from some bastardized research from many years ago that, again, we grab onto and it becomes gospel. There's nothing wrong with it. For the average person, so if we get 100 people in the room, there's probably a lot of them sleeping 8 hours and doing quite well. Where the problems come are the ends of the bell curve, the people who require a few hours of sleep, maybe people who require a little bit more because of what they do or who they are. And so when we just put out information, it's really important for us to clarify, are we talking about averages? Are we talking about you specifically? And so I think where we go with medicine or science is start with an average.
Yeah, it's a
You
good place
know,
to start.
try 8, go to bed at 11, get up at 7. What do you find happening? It's perfect. I feel great. And my blood pressure is awesome. And my cholesterol is great. And my weight's incredible. And I've never lifted more in the weight room than I think you found it.
Yeah.
If it's, Chris, I tried to do this thing so I don't get dementia when I get older, and I'm going to bed at 11, get up at 7. I'm very disciplined about it. And it always takes me an hour or two to fall asleep. 8 might not be the number for you. It's sort of like, I buy a pizza every night for dinner, but I only eat half of it before I get full. And I just do the rest in the trash can. Why do you eat a whole pizza? Because my friend eats a whole pizza and he's a super healthy guy. Yeah, but it seems like your body's telling you don't want that whole pizza. Maybe just buy half of a pizza for dinner every night and see what happens. Like it's the nuance, the customization, the making something work for you at this particular age and stage of life you're in. I think that's where we kind of lose sight of things. And if we do, there's a large number of people who that starts to create an anxiety about their sleep. Okay, I'm going to bed at, trying to do this thing that this author told me to do. And it always takes me an hour to fall asleep. And oh my God, I read somewhere that if you don't sleep well, you get dementia. So it just becomes this kind of chaotic, fearful relationship that you have versus, I fall asleep or I don't. I get to my call room when I'm a resident or I don't. I hope I do. So I always tell people, the secret to great sleep is being happy in bed, awake, or being asleep. Who cares? Like resting is awesome for you. So trying to pull fear and anxiety out of the situation, I think is really step number one for a lot of people finding the right sleep for themselves. That's maybe a consequence of this heightened attention and excitement and chatter about sleep is you kind of feel like if it's not perfect for you, something's going wrong.
Mm.
And that can, in some people, really be a real problem.
When I hear you say that, what I wonder is how qualified am I, or anyone listening? I mean, so how qualified am I to judge whether or not I'm getting the right amount of sleep?
Well,
Because clearly, I mean, there's lots of things we can talk about. Clearly, sleep is massively important. So, I'm not a sleep expert. How qualified am I to make that decision that I'm getting it right? What are the markers I'm looking for to make
yeah,
that?
no, I think
And
I
am I
think
qualified to make that decision?
yes, 100%.
Oh,
Now, can you be fooled? Yes. Can I be fooled? Absolutely.
yeah.
There, every now and then you get some super healthy person in the sleep lab and you do a sleep study, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, it's the right thing to do, but they're going to be fine. And the sleep comes back disastrous. And you ask them, your sleep's a mess. Like, do you really not feel sleepy during the day? You feel as good as you say you feel? So I think sometimes perception of sleep and reality of how we feel can be divergent. But I think that we're all absolutely qualified to assess that. And, the answer to the question, what are the tools? To me, the biggest assessment of sleep quality at night is energy and sleepiness during the day. I wrote about in my first book this very common little sleep tool called the Epworth, which is 8 questions. How likely are you to fall asleep talking to someone? How likely are you to fall asleep relaxing in the afternoon, reading a book, watching TV, sitting quietly in a public place, eating lunch, passenger in a car, or driver of a car?
Mm.
So you kind of take people through these common daily scenarios and ask them, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? If the answer over and over is, oh my gosh, I fall asleep all the time watching TV. I can't stay awake in meetings. I'm not off driving. I fall asleep every week in church. Then that's telling me that either there is a problem with your sleep quantity. So that's an easy follow-up question. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? Oh, Chris, I go to bed at 10, maybe 9. I'm usually out of bed at 7. Okay, well, quantity seems pretty good there versus, well, I work 2 jobs. And I try to get a little sleep in between job 1 and job 2. That usually works out to be about 4 hours. And then I'll try to catch a nap between job 2 and job 1. That's usually an hour, maybe a little bit longer the weekends when I'm off. Like, okay, so there might be a quantity problem there that's leading to that excessive sleepiness. But if there is no quantity issue, then it's almost invariably a quality issue. There's something going on with somebody. And so to me, that marker is really important because if somebody says, look, I'm getting 7 hours of sleep, I never nap, I don't fall asleep, even in the most boring, dark lecture halls, I don't nod off when I'm passing the car, I rarely take naps during the day, then I'm getting the impression from this person that whatever is happening at night is doing a pretty good job of filling the sleep coffers. The tank is full
Yeah.
so that you're not seeking more sleep.
Yeah.
And that's one of the unusual things, about insomnia patients who'll tell you, I'm lucky if I get an hour's sleep, or I've gone 6 months with no sleep. Okay, let's pretend for a minute that was scientifically possible because it's not.
Humanly possible.
Tell
Yeah.
me about your daytime. Do you nap a lot? Do you fall asleep in meetings, nodding off? And no, I can't nap. So you're saying to me you're physiologically incapable of sleeping, essentially, is what you're telling me, which is like somebody saying to you, about 6 months ago, I stopped breathing. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened. It was
Or
just kind
drinking
of,
water. Yeah.
I had to stop eating, drinking water. Exactly. So, you know, it's funny. I was thinking the other day, we used to think of hysteria. If you look up hysteria, it was the thought that within a woman, the uterus was just running around inside of her body, which is where hysterectomy comes from. Let's excise the hysteria from, So I love the fact that was the belief But nobody talks about, well, I've had a rough week. My uterus, I think, is just running around all over the place inside of me. Like, we've let that explanation go because it's absurd and makes no sense and kind of demeaning. But by God, we've hung on to can't sleep. It's been a rough 6 weeks. I just can't sleep. I've never been a sleeper. My mother couldn't sleep either. Like, we talk about that like it's just,
Yeah.
well, I'm a flyer. I can flap my arms and fly around the house. It's my dad could fly too. It's no big deal. Like, it's, he got a little bit heavy in his older age and lost the ability to fly. But up until his 50s, he was a flyer. Like, no, he wasn't. No human can flap their arms and fly around. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You don't sleep. Every human on the face of this earth sleeps. So where is this coming from? So to me, it's interesting that we've got all this information and dialogue about sleep, but there's certain pockets of my patient population or patient populations at all where it really hasn't penetrated that much. What has penetrated is, well, what do you think about this new CBD pill for sleep or this vibrating device I wear around my neck to make me sleep? Like, I don't know. Why do you think you need these? Well, I can't sleep. Well, sure you can. Where's that coming from? So it's a fantastically dynamic field full of strange paradoxes and confusion.